Yeah, I'm Andy V. I've been living in San Antonio for about 23 years. I have built three companies throughout my adulthood, and today I'm going to be sharing my story about Meta Consultants. Meta is actually an acronym. It stands for Monitoring, Evaluation, Training, and Assessment. So we help mostly nonprofits build their services, and we evaluate and do a lot of research and data analysis. And I've done that for about 23 years. I'm the CEO and founder also of Comprehensive Home Health and Hospice. I'm just glad to be here and share my story with you. If it could help you out in your, entrepreneur and venture journey, then I've done something good today. So I'm really happy to share my story, and I'll always be available to ask questions via email. So that's who I am.
Thank you so much, Andy. Arlette?
Hi everyone, my name is Arlette Belver. I'm excited to be here with you. And the reason I'm excited to share with you today is I come from very humble beginnings. I was born and raised in Mexico. I did not move to the United States until I was in my late, can you guys hear me? Can you hear me now?
Yes.
I was almost, in my late 20s, I moved to the U.S. because my employer transferred me from Mexico to their operations in the U.S., and I came and I stayed. I fell in love with San Antonio. San Antonio's home. And a tragic incident took me to opening an amazing business. My daughter had a near drowning incident when she was 4 years old. She survived, praise God, and that led me to the journey where I am right now in saving lives. We are committed to drowning prevention, and the reason I'm here is because I want to make sure I give you something you take and you use to transform your life. So I look forward to this conversation.
What size do we need?
Awesome, thank you. Paul, can you share with us?
We
as
need
well?
batteries.
Sure.
Yeah,
My name is Paul Orosco. I'm excited to be here, especially because of the age you guys are at. You're really at the pivotal stage when you can decide what you want to do, and the doors are wide open for any direction. Really, I started my own business when I was 15, and people thought I was crazy then, and as I continued growing and developing more business opportunities, I really can't even number the amount of businesses I have started, and each time I started a new business, it's not like I really knew exactly what I was going to do, but I had a passion and I had a gut feeling that maybe this will work. Some of them worked, and some of them didn't, and that's okay. At your age, always remember that failing is not an end. What it is an opportunity to learn, to pivot, and then to seek other pathways to get to the success you're seeking. So at 15, 14, 13, you're never too young to seek out opportunities and develop them and make yourself happy, and at the same time, make some money along the way and chart your own path.
Awesome, thank you so much. That is super on your bed. So as we begin to get started into this panel session, I want to take you back to the very beginning. What was that pivotal moment for you guys where you just decided that you were done being done with working for somebody else and you wanted to create that path for yourself and really just forge ownership for yourself? What was that pivotal moment for you, Andy?
For me, well, I always liked making money since I was a little kid. I mean, I was that kid that made raspas, and learned how to make, I was like 10, I learned how to make my own syrup, and I would sell snow cones. I would go to Mexico and buy candy, and I'd come back and increase the price and sell it to my friends, So I learned really young that I wanted to make money, and that hustle, that drive that I had, I didn't know at the time, but it would be beneficial in me trying to establish my own business. But I was a director at a big health clinic in the Rio Grande Valley, and I used to hire consultants and evaluators to do this work for me, right? And one day it just hit me, because I used to pay them very well, right? One day it just hit me, and I said, I can do this, And I thought about it for a few days, and then I quit my job. And I called all my contacts and I said, hey, Andy's up for grabs. I'm starting my consulting company. And I struggled, trying to get my contacts and, people to hire me. I did a lot of, pro bono work, and I, did a lot of work for discounts so people could get to know who I was. And then the contract started coming in. The first time I got a contract, I got all excited. And then another one came in, and a few years later, my revenue was over $2 million. And so I didn't know at the time that I decided, hey, I can do this for myself. I know how to do what they're doing for me, and why am I paying them? Why isn't this company paying me as a consultant? And that's when I had my wake-up moment, right? And I don't regret it. I was scared. It was scary because you don't know what the outcome's going to be. I could have crashed and burned, but that's one thing about being at this age and knowing what you want to do and creating something for yourself is, you're going to have to take risks, right? And sometimes they pay off and sometimes they don't. But you can't be afraid to take that risk, because if I would have been afraid to take that risk, I wouldn't be where I am today. So I'm very happy that I made the choices that I made.
Absolutely. Thank you so much for sharing, Andy. Arlette, how about you? Let's take it back. What was that pivotal moment for you?
So I want to add something really important. To me, being an employee for a big company, it was not bad. Being an employee was good, okay? It's save money that comes every week or every other week. I had an amazing experience working for the automotive industry for 18 years. It was a great school, and it gave me a very strong foundation, and it made me a business-oriented. But over the years, I've learned that companies have budgets. And what you receive, your income, it's going to be limited to their budget. And if you really want to go beyond that budget, you have to be willing to sacrifice, and you sacrifice a lot, to give up your entire life and take that moment of, okay, I'm ready, I have learned, I have taken everything I think I can take. Now it's my time to give back and to help others learn from me. Now it's really difficult, but the moment I realized I was limited by the limitations of the company I was working for, I was ready to go on. And it was really liberating. And also I have to add that I really enjoy being the boss of my own schedule. Nobody tells me when I can take time off. Nobody tells me when I can work. Now my work is there, and I have to feel my work, and I do my work. I'm not saying when you go and you become self-employed, you're gonna work less. It doesn't work that way. You actually work much more, okay? You have to be committed to work at night. I work 7 days a week. I answer emails 7 days a week at midnight, at 1 in the morning. My husband can testify that I'm at 2 in the morning. If nobody processes payroll, then I have to go to my computer and process payroll, because my employees don't have to work. They want to get paid, right? So you have to be willing to work and work a lot, but that effort and that sacrifice is going to pay off.
Absolutely. Thank you. Any other questions?
So, how much rest do you get?
Well, resting is never being a priority for me, so I don't think there's something wrong with my body. I've been wired differently. Resting is not really something I prioritize. I do rest. I have a very well-balanced life because I do have a lot of fun. Please, guys, know that just because you are entrepreneurs and you're business owners, fun is taken away from your schedule. No, have fun, enjoy life, okay? Invest in the people you love. That's the first advice I will tell you. Invest in the people you care for. Invest in your family. Invest in your friends. Invest in yourself. Always read, educate yourself. It's a great journey. Take advantage of it, and take it with passion.
Awesome. Thank you so much. Now, Paul, I know you said you started out when you were 15, so I don't know. It doesn't sound like it sounds like you made the decision at 15 years old. But tell us a little bit more.
So thank you. So really, there were two pivotal moments in my entrepreneurial life. The first one was when I was 15. I was working on the weekends at the flea market. You know, you make $15 a day, you help sell things, whatever the vendor is selling. And I went to work for one vendor, and I noticed that the vendor had a lot of merchandise that we never took off of the truck. So he had a lot more merchandise that that we didn't need to sell because we had everything out on the floor. So I said, listen, can you front me, you know, the same amount of merchandise, and I'll open my own store at the other side of the flea market. You sell it to me at wholesale, and then I'll pay you for everything I sell. And he said, sure, let's give it a try. So instead of making $15 a day helping him sell products, I ended up doing my own store on the other side of the flea market, and I was making $300 a weekend, sometimes $500 a weekend. So that really excited me. You know, I was able to do the same thing but for myself and multiply my earnings. So I did that for several years, and then, you know, cars were a passion of mine. And at 16, I bought my first car. I didn't buy it to drive because I still didn't have a driver's license. I just bought it because the price was good. It was $180. All I did is and this is back in the early 80s, so I bought it for $180. Back then, we didn't have Craigslist or Marketplace. You'd have to open a newspaper, and they had classified ads, little ads that said what the car was and how much it costed. So I bought this old, I think it was a 72 or 73 Buick for $180. I washed it, I cleaned it up, I changed the oil, changed the battery. I put about maybe another $50 or so into it, and then I sold it in about a week for $1,100. So that was really exciting. So from the time I was 16 even till now, I still buy cars all over the place. I actually buy cars like in South America. So I travel to Venezuela, Mexico, all over looking for classic cars. You've seen like car hunters. Well, I do that too. And here in the United States, the prices are very high and the inventory is small. So I actually literally am going through jungles to find very rare Porsches, Mercedes, things like that. So I buy cars that might cost me $20,000 to $50,000. I fix them up, and they're worth about $150,000. So I double, triple my money. So I've been doing cars since I was 16. But the longest lasting business I've had happened when I was 27. So, you know, between doing all these little businesses since I was 16 to my early 20s, at a certain point, my brother had told me, hey, look, you know, sometimes you work, sometimes you make money, and sometimes you don't. That's an entrepreneur's life. It's cyclical in terms of how much money you make. It's not consistent. And he said, why don't you get a job? That way you have consistent money and you can do your side hustles. So I did. He actually gave me a little ad that said bilingual salesman. And I had no idea what it was. I called, they said, come in for an interview. It was to sell wholesale meat to restaurants. Well, they gave me a book of old clients that they had lost that are no longer their clients. So I got a lot of clients back, and I serviced those clients. And during that time, you know, I started to gain a passion for the restaurant industry. And then just before 1 year of working for this company, one of my customers went out of business. And I thought the opportunity for this business was was just as good as any others, but I recognized that this restaurant wasn't quite capitalizing the way they should. So, as you all know, there's millions of taquerias everywhere you go, right? So there may be 5 or 10 within several blocks. Well, how do you make it within that sort of competition and landscape? You have to differentiate yourself. So in a nutshell, what I did is I bought that failed restaurant out of bankruptcy. I bought it for $23,000. And I decided that I was going to do everything that I had like envisioned a successful brand and restaurant should do. And I'm not going to do what this other person did, which were the bad things. Well, one of the things to differentiate myself, and this is very important, I was located in downtown San Jose, and there were no restaurants open past 12 midnight. So I'm right in the center where all the nightclubs are, and I said, I'm gonna open till 3 a.m. Everybody told me I was crazy. They told me I was crazy, for one, getting into the restaurant business because it's very difficult, and two, I've never ran a restaurant business in my life, and three, you're gonna be open till 3 in the morning? I said, yes. Well, lo and behold, that first Thursday night, it was Thursday, Friday, Saturday, that I would stay open till 3 in the morning. That very first Thursday night, I had a line out the door all the way till 3 in the morning. And that was when I was 27. And 30 years later, and multiple restaurants later, we still have a line out the door. We've been featured on Man vs. Food, and I can't tell you how many food networks. The restaurant and brand that I created at that time, to this moment, has generated over $100 million in sales. So that's one taco at a time. So don't ever let anybody tell you that your business can't make it. All you have to do is have passion for what you're doing, differentiate yourselves from the competition, and work hard and work smart. It can happen.
Awesome, thank you so much. So, Paul, it sounds like you have an eye for opportunity, and you're taking something that other people might look at as old or not worth value, and you take it and you grow value out of it. So that's amazing. Thank you so much for sharing that. Now, I guess my next question is this. You guys all have scaled your businesses, reinvented yourself multiple times over. What do you think is the biggest lesson that you learned that you didn't even know or biggest mistake, I guess, that you were making that you didn't know you were making until years later?
That's a tough one. It's a tough one because, you can talk about this all day, but I'll make it short. I think that one of the first things for me that I realized is I thought everything was about making money. So I saw money coming in, and I got excited. I didn't really track how much money was going out, right? So lesson learned for me was, I had a service that people wanted, right? And I knew, that I was doing a good job. But what I didn't realize is I didn't know how to run a business. Because you can make a great taco or have a great swimming pool, or, you can have a great service that you provide to your, clients. But if you don't know how to run a business, then you can get yourself in trouble, right? So I had to take a step back and look at my model and be like, what is missing? And what was missing for me was I needed a mentor. I needed somebody to show me how to run a business, right? What kind of business was I gonna have? Was I gonna have an LLC? If I was gonna have a corporation? What was my, who's gonna do my taxes? I didn't know how to do taxes. I didn't even know what the IRS meant, was until, I got my first professional job. Now I know the IRS very well. But you wanna, when are your taxes due? So it's taking a step back and knowing that you have a great product, knowing that you have a great service and that you could sell it, But taking a step back and learning how to run your business, whether through a mentor or taking classes, it's gonna be paramount in your success, right? And that was what happened to me.
Okay, in my experience, there's two. Number one, um, the, the, um, the first one I want to share with you is when I transferred from the automotive industry, my background is in engineering. I was used to working with systems, procedures, creating processes, working with equipment and machines. And guys, let me tell you something, you probably have not realized that machines don't talk back to you. So when I opened the swim school, I was doing a service to the community. I was working retail, and people do talk back to you. So that was a shock to me, and I had to take a step back and learn how to give customer service. I was not trained to give customer service. I did not know how to talk to a mom. I'm a mom myself, but I didn't know how to sell swim lessons. I was passionate about keeping kids safe in the water. I was passionate about making sure will learn how to swim so they will save themselves in the event of an incident, but I didn't know how to sell swim lessons. So that was one. And it's been a journey. So I'm not sure that I made it yet, but I'm still evolving, and I like that word from my friend Rachel. I'm still learning. It's being a roller coaster. It's being an emotional and very satisfaction. I've learned a lot over the years. I've been doing Aquatats for 13 years, so I've learned to work with people, and it's been such an emotional and an amazing experience. The number two issue I've encountered is it's a cultural, and it's also a generational stuff. I'm 50 years old, and the demographic I hire is younger people like you guys, and it's being challenging for me to understand your generation and to learn from your work ethics and your background. And I'm still learning. It's been very difficult, so I have taken mentors, like Andy said. I have read a lot of books. I'm trying to be up to date on HR and things like that, because I want to make sure that I transfer my passion to the people that's working with me. So those are being my biggest challenges.
Awesome, thank you so much. Now, I definitely, for Paul, what was your biggest challenge, do you feel like? Or your biggest mistake, I guess, that you realized years later?
So, really, I think one of the biggest mistakes early on is not saying no. So, having an idea or an opportunity come to you and it sounds great and you think you can make it happen and you say yes, and then you invest time and effort and money and then realize later down the line that maybe it wasn't the best decision. So I think the way to mitigate those mistakes is to really do your due diligence. You want to investigate. You want to look at the competition. You want to see if really long term you can add value and if it makes sense. I'd say another mistake that I've encountered over the years is sometimes not picking the best partner. So really, you want to find somebody who complements, what you do. Maybe you're a great salesperson, but the other partner is great at running the business, as you were mentioning. So that's a perfect marriage for business. But in over the years, I've gone into business ventures with different partners, and for one reason or another, it hasn't worked out. As an example, another big success I had was I got into venture capital in Silicon Valley. That's where you have a fund of capital, and then you invest in startup companies like Facebook and Tesla. And if you get in early, you make a lot of money when they do an IPO. Well, I started a fund with two partners, and I thought, wow, these guys are great. They're both ex-Goldman Sachs bankers. I'm not a banker, but I've got a large network, and I had this idea to create this cross-border fund. Well, we funded this fund with billionaire families from Mexico. I've got a large network in Mexico, and we made some very successful investments early on. And what happened was, you take an investment, and I'll take one for example. We invested in a company, and we invested several $1,000,000, and our investment has grown 40x. Every X is 100%. So 40 times our money. That company was going to IPO in 2022. It didn't because of the pandemic. They're slated to IPO probably next year, and 40x is a great return. Well, that's the upside. The downside is I'm no longer with the fund. Why? Because the two partners I had, because there was friction, we disbanded and I exited. So that's an example of having great partners who are very intelligent, they're smart, but because of one reason or another, you could get pushed out or you could lose money. So really pick your partners wisely.
Awesome. I love that story because we have two junior board members, and after we did our pitch decks with an actual investor about 3 weeks ago in our mentorship program, after they heard everything, they were having conversations about, hey, well, why don't we partner up? And if I do this, I can do this at my school, and it could be your product, So it was very intelligent responses that they were giving as well. So thank you for sharing that. Now, all of us know we live in a very big society where visibility, a lot of people chase visibility. We have a society of TikTok, Instagram, and you can get on there and create lots of likes and loves, but that doesn't always translate into dollars. It doesn't always monetize. So in a world full of visibility, what would you say to that? How do you guys stay relevant in your industry? And what does visibility look like for you? What do you do to stay visible? Well, yeah, go ahead, Andy.
You want to take that one? We'll go this way now.
Okay, got it. Go ahead, Paul. Take that one.
Okay, so there's a balance with visibility, and it all depends on the industry you're in. Let's say you're a music artist, and I've had a 10-year career in the music industry. Visibility is very important. It's important as an artist, and it's also important in management where I was. But there's a balance. And some people say, well, you want to be the loudest in the room, or you want to get noticed in the room. In some aspects that might be good, but in others maybe not. So I think really the way you can create visibility for yourself is by differentiating yourself, and then also having what I would call a value proposition. So you would be able to be recognized because, if I work with this person or if I do business with this person, they're going to bring value to me. So, and another thing too is let your actions speak for yourself. So instead of saying, hey, I'm great, I can make money for you, do business with me, let your record speak for yourself. Sometimes it's the person who doesn't talk the loudest, but maybe listens and, will strike up a conversation and then understand what the needs are or where you could actually partner or fit in with somebody, and then they recognize, hey, listen, this person could add value to me. And you know what? I want to do business with them. So it's not about saying, hey, pick me. It's about actually having people recognize what you can bring to the table. So it's not always the one who speaks the loudest. It's the one who actually can understand how they can bring value to a room.
Yes, thank you. Arlette?
Well, I think that's a great question because we live in an era of technology and social media, and we have to embrace it. We have to own it. We have to be in it. My concept of it to be relatable is to go back to your basics. I'm going to use Aqua Tots as the example. We do swim lessons, and we do swim lessons only. So say what you do and do what you say you are. We do not get involved on anything else. Okay? As a person, I have my beliefs, I have my indoctrination, I have my education. I am who I am. But in the business does not get involved in politics, religion, anything that's happening out there in the world. It's unrelated to your service and product. Stick to what you do, sell your product or services, and respectfully stay away from everything else.
Yes, I love that. Thank you so much. Very smart. Andy?
So hitting back on social media, folks, the first thing I would recommend is know your target audience, right? Who you're selling your service and your product to, right? Is it young people? Is it older people? Is it, people my generation, the Gen Xers? So who are you selling your product to, and what social media is that population using, right? Because I have clients trying to target young people using Facebook, and I'm like, young people are on Facebook, but they don't use Facebook, right? So they're on TikTok, they're on Instagram, they're on Snapchat. Is grow your visibility with your target audience, right? Once you know your target audience, once you know what kind of technology they use, then come up with good content, right? You got to mix it up. You got to mix up your content with a little serious stuff and a little funny stuff, right? So you got to mix it up a little whenever you're on social media. But that's number one. Second is I agree with the gentleman. I feel like establishing relationships are extremely important. That's how you stay relevant. Network, go to meetings, get involved in community affairs, start meeting people. And when you meet with them, make sure that you bring something that's gonna mutually benefit both of y'all. It's not just what are you bringing to the table for me, it's what can we do for each other, right? Once that other individual or the other company knows that they're also gonna benefit from the partnership, then that's when the journey truly begins. So those are my two pieces of advice.
Awesome. Thank you so much. Please give them a round of applause. Oh my God. They are talking some bold nuggets on you guys today. Can you guys all agree? Absolutely. Okay, so you guys are sitting before a room full of future leaders, community builders, CEOs, future founders. What advice do you want to leave with them today? We'll start with you again, Paul.
So really, probably the best advice is, don't ever limit yourself. Don't be afraid to take that first step, and then don't be afraid to fail. Because if you never take that chance, you'll never know if it would have worked. So always seek out opportunities that you're passionate about. If it's something you enjoy, then the old saying is, if it's something you enjoy, then it isn't work. So find something you're passionate about. Don't take no for an answer. Really do your homework and assess the competition, and really just go out there and do it. It's okay at your age, and I'm telling you, at my age, I'm still failing, and that's okay. You just move on. You dust yourself off. You get better at every turn. And then, as was mentioned, you're 15 now. You might be passionate about something now, but by the time you're 17 or 18, maybe your passion changes, and that's okay. You can phase out of that one thing you're doing and start doing something else. You can always reinvent yourself. So, you know, like I said, I partnered with 2 bankers. I'm not a banker, and I was in, just like that, I became a venture capitalist. Why? Because I knew how to find capital. So, and don't let degrees and education, you know, slow you down. Because in this day and age, you've heard it from Elon Musk and Zuckerberg and a bunch of other tech entrepreneurs. They started at, you know, in university, but they dropped out because they had an idea that they were passionate about. So it's not the degree, it's the education that you get, you know, through you know, trial and error. And in this day and age, I'll tell you, you guys have such a large advantage that we never had, and that is AI. So it used to take me weeks and sometimes months to flesh out a business idea and do an executive summary and a business plan. Now it takes me literally hours. I just punch in what I'm thinking and start prompting with the questions, and I can build a business plan literally in half a day, which would have taken me 30 days. So you have a tremendous advantage. Use technology to its fullest. Don't ever take no for an answer, and trust and believe in yourself.
Best words right there. Don't ever take no for an